What's going on, y'all? Machiavelli Mills TV. Y'all hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. This is going to be a lengthy video, so y'all brace yourself and bear with me. Yesterday, it was announced by ESPN that Bruce Pearl, head men's basketball coach at Auburn University, will be retiring, and he will now pass the team on down to his son, Stephen Pearl, right? Now, some of y'all wondering, man, the NCAA men's basketball college basketball season is about to start. Yes, the season is about to start, right? But most of the time, when a coach wants to pick his own successor, he will retire right before the season so that he can appoint who he wants, because the university has no time to try to go on his big coaching search and all of that, right? He can appoint who he wants. And he has appointed his son as the guy he wanted to succeed him. And his wish was granted. Stephen Pearl was granted a 5-year deal from Auburn University. Is it the University of Auburn or Auburn University? I don't know if the university goes at the front or the back, but you know what I mean, right? So Auburn gave his son a 5-year deal. And it's quite funny because Bruce Pearl is a MAGA man. He's a MAGA crusader. And a lot of the MAGA crusaders, they gave LeBron James flack for nepotism, for allowing Bronny James to be drafted by the LA Lakers and get a 4-year deal and all of that. And a lot of these MAGA folks hated nepotism when it came to LeBron James. But I told y'all why I didn't get mad at LeBron for this at all. Because people like Bruce Pearl, they do this shit every day in their sleep. And they wish you say something about what they got going on. They don't give a damn if you say something about what they got going on. They don't give a flying fuck. They do what they want to do. They engage in nepotism every day of the hour. And they don't care who like it, who don't like it. They do what they want to do, right? So Stephen Pearl will be the new head coach of the basketball team, right? And just like they said Bronny James is doing, Stephen Pearl is taking away an opportunity from someone who was potentially a talented candidate, right? Who doesn't have the financial backing that a coach's son has, right? Because Stephen Pearl, he's a coach's son. He's not just any coach's son. He's the son of Bruce Pearl, who was coaching at major universities, getting major dollars, right? So it's people out there who are potentially great candidates for a head coaching position at Auburn, but they're not going to get the job, and they losing it to somebody who got better financial backing than they got and all of that. Other coaches might probably need this money, you know? Same way they tried to shape it around Bronny James. But this video is not going to be about Bronny James and Bruce Pearl. This video is going to be about Bruce Pearl and the bad person that he is. Good riddance to Bruce Pearl. I'm making this video to say good riddance to him. 100%. Right? Why do I say that? Man, Bruce Pearl is a man who should have been coaching black children, black young men in the first place. He should have never been coaching black young men in the first place, right? So, for those who don't know, Etan Thomas, shout out to Etan Thomas, former NBA player. I remember Etan from his days playing with the Washington Wizards, right? During the Baby Bulls era, when the Bulls were terrible, and I was watching the Bulls all the time still, right, when we had Jamal Crawford and Eddie Curry and Tyson Chandler in their early years, right? Etan played for the Washington Wizards, but now the brother he's on YouTube, he's staying on code, he's spreading the good words and message to black folks about what's going on in America, and he's talking about the racial injustices that occur against black folks on a daily basis, right? But anyway, Etan Thomas, he covered the fact that Bruce Pearl was praising Charlie Kirk after his death, right? After Charlie Kirk was taken out. So let me give y'all the quote from Bruce Pearl that I saw from Etan Thomas, right? Bruce Pearl was on Outkick. He was talking to Dan Dockich, another former men's head basketball coach who is embracing a lot of racist rhetoric, outwardly racist. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Dan Dockich is racist, okay? He is. He's an anti-black racist. And anyway, he's on Outkick. Bruce Pearl is on Outkick talking to Dan Dockich. And Bruce Pearl says this about Charlie Kirk, and I quote, "He was leading the most important revival that was taking place in our country. And that's young, conservative Christian people who were, what do you say, on fire for God and Jesus. He said that important revival that Charlie Kirk was leading was young, conservative Christian people who were on fire for God and Jesus. Bruce Pearl goes on to say this about Charlie Kirk. He says, he was on the right side of good. He was on the right side. He was on the right side of accurate history for the most part when he talked for what he talked about, right? He said they couldn't beat him, so they unalived him. They murdered him. They assassinated him. They eliminated him. But what they didn't realize is they actually didn't, because he is going to live on. And he is going to live on through all of us who followed him and learned from him. He said Charlie had a different gift, and he will be so missed. This man said Charlie Kirk was on the side of right. He was on the side of good. He was on the side of accurate history for the most part for what he talked about. And they couldn't beat him, so they took him out. But he's going to live on through us and through people that followed him. You see, and when he said these comments, right, a lot of people got wind of it. One of those individuals who got wind of it is Mike Wilbon, a esteemed journalist, right? And he works for ESPN on Pardon the Interruption. And when they talked about Bruce Pearl retiring, Mike Wilbon said basically good riddance to him. He was like, Bruce Pearl was being rather divisive as of lately. So good riddance. And Danny Cannell, college football analyst, as well as the MAGA man. Well, I'm going to say, because Dave Portnoy has been critical of Donald Trump lately, but anti-black racist Dave Portnoy. Dave Portnoy and Danny Cannell started trying to berate Mike Wilbon for calling Bruce Pearl divisive and for addressing that he was divisive and saying good riddance. They all get mad about it because he doesn't agree with you and all that. No. What I don't like is I hate when people expect black folks to like champion people who align themselves with anti-black racists. Bruce Pearl was aligning himself with an anti-black racist named Charlie Kirk, right? And to expect a black man like Mike Wilbon to stand next to Bruce Pearl and champion him and uplift him and honor him and praise him is absolutely fucking insane. Are y'all crazy? What? There's no way on God's green earth I'm going to stand next to a man and honor and praise a man who I know aligns himself with anti-black racists on the regular. Not even just through Bruce Pearl aligning himself with Charlie Kirk. Bruce Pearl is an extreme MAGA man to the core, right? To the core. So when we see these quotes from him about Charlie Kirk and him wanting to pick up where Charlie Kirk left off and Charlie Kirk going to live on through them, and Charlie Kirk was on the side of right and on the side of good and acting like the other side was the evil side. It's wild, but it's not surprising to me, right? Because I remember when, and this is the crazy thing about it, he talked about Charlie Kirk being this good Christian man and this good Christian guy who was on the side of right. And I always ask y'all, like I did in my other videos, where the fuck was his Christianity at? Excuse my language, right? Where was his Christianity? What was his good Christian morals, principles, and values when he was talking negatively about black folks? When he was saying that black folks that are pilots are simply pilots due to DEI, he wonders if you see a black pilot, is it because of DEI? Like the airlines is going to fucking hire somebody just for a DEI. Like they're going to risk hiring somebody who's not qualified to fly a plane when they have people's lives in their hands. Like they're going to risk a lawsuit, a potential lawsuit, by hiring somebody who is not, what's the word I'm looking for? Who is not credible to hire, who is not qualified. You think they're going to hire a person who's not qualified to be a pilot? Like the airlines is going to hire an unqualified individual just for DEI? Are y'all mad? Are y'all stupid? Are you dumb? Or are you all of the above? Just ignorant shit, you know what I mean? So what was his Christian values when he said that, when he talked about black women and saying they don't have the brain processing power, basically to make certain decisions and all that. They don't have the right brain processing power to do certain things, right? What was his Christian values when he was painting black folks with this wide brush of us being degenerate and acting like we were the most violent people in the world. And like, the thing that the people to worry about in this country were violent black folks, and he was acting like violent black people was just, it was just such a epidemic that was happening across the country. And he was going on all these college tours talking about how harmful and how violent black folks were inherently. What was his Christian values at then? You know what I mean? So I get mad when people be like, oh, he was just a Christian and he was such a Christian. All of this. Where were those Christian values at then, man? Where were those Christian values at when Charlie Kirk cheered the deaths of Palestinians? Where were the Christian values at, when he justified school shootings, when he supported genocide, when he believed innocent kids in Palestine deserved to die, right? Where was the Christian values at when he when he said that George Zimmerman was hunted at night by Trayvon Martin, right? In order to justify George Zimmerman taking the life of a young boy, Trayvon Martin. What was the good Christian values at then? Huh? Are you serious? He's a good Christian? You see what I'm talking about? And Bruce Pearl knows all of these things that Charlie Kirk said. He still rides out with him. He still champions him. You see what I'm saying? So black folks, please watch where you sending your kids to go play basketball at. Because you have men like Bruce Pearl who only value your black children if they can dribble a basketball or throw a basketball or play football for them. If their athletic prowess helps to get them wins in the wins column. If they're athletic, they only value black kids who help them elevate as coaches and get better coaching jobs or more money. Bruce Pearl has made generational wealth off the bodies of young black men, but he champions people who despise young black men, who talk disrespect, who denigrate young black men, who look at us as just gang banging thugs all the time. Let's be for real. Like, what are we talking about? And it's crazy. Ironically, the person, Charlie Kirk wasn't taken out by these black thugs he kept talking about, these black violent gang members. He was taken out by a man who looked like him, who was raised up in the same principles and ideologies that he promoted himself, right? Well, let's keep going, because I'm not shocked that Bruce Pearl had these things to say about Charlie Kirk. He already showed me who he was a month earlier when he was talking about, he was on Outkick with Dan Dockich, and he was talking about Barack Obama, and he was talking about how divisive Barack Obama was when he was the president of the United States of America. I have his quote here. He says, "I get so frustrated when I hear what a terrible country we are, how racist we are. How is this not the land? How this is not the land of opportunity for everybody." Really? This is the land of opportunity for everybody? Okay. Anyway, he says, "Look, we've got a lot to work on, and there's racism that absolutely exists, and it's wrong, but it's a lot better for my players than it was for their fathers or their grandfathers. And while that may be true, yes, the country is in a better place than it was when my grandfather was coming up in his country. It's a better place than what it was when my father was coming up in this country, but we still have issues that need to get fixed. We still have systemic racism that is running rampant. We still have police brutality that is occurring where black people are being unalived while they are unarmed, right? We still have a system of systemic racism that's still thriving and running strongly. So yes, things are better than what they used to be, but we still need change. That's like telling a black person during Jim Crow America, hey, at least things are better than it was for your father and your grandfather. At least you're not slaves anymore. Yeah, we're not slaves, but we're not allowed to attain generational wealth. We don't have the same resources that you all do as white folks, right? They didn't have the same resources. They weren't given the same opportunities to attain generational wealth. None of that. They didn't even have access to the same type of establishments, whether it be schools, whether it be restaurants, dentist office, doctor's office, etc. They didn't have the same access to none of those same resources, you know? So yeah, they weren't in slavery anymore, but they still were being kept here in society. They still were looked down on and still spat on. Yeah, their daughter, yeah, black folks' daughters and sisters couldn't be sold off. They couldn't be legally sold off and auctioned off. But black folks were still getting lynched. Black folks were still having to deal with the KKK. Black folks were still having to deal with, racist, terroristic type people on a regular basis. You know? Still, we had Emmett Till. Still, we saw these, like, some of the most gruesome, not we, but black folks still experience some of the most gruesome racist violence that they can ever imagine. Even after slavery was long and gone. Slavery was still around figuratively in several ways. And even when we look at the movie Sinners, right? That's a great point, prime example of that. Yeah, slavery was over, but they were getting paid in plantation funds. They were sharecroppers, getting paid in plantation money. They weren't getting paid in real money, so so it could keep them on the plantation and prevent them from attaining any type of wealth to better their lives and to be prosperous. You see what I'm saying? So all of that, things were better than they were for their fathers and grandfathers. Yeah, that might be true, but we still have a lot of issues in this country dealing with racism, right? But let me continue my quote. Bruce Pearl says, I want my guys to recognize there are going to be obstacles, but not roadblocks. And that is what Barack Obama did. You know, however, as our president, I disagree with so many of his policies. And then he went on to give, Barack Obama his credit for being a great orator, whatever. Trying to soften the blow, I guess, a little bit, right? Then he says, I thought in so many ways, rather than uniting us as a country, even if by race, he divided us, right? He says, everything was black and white. Everything was the obstacles that were against my players from being successful. I'm trying to teach my guys, look, I don't want you working at Subway. I want you owning 5 of them. And that's possible, right? But I think in so many ways, Barack Obama told a different story. And it's hard, he said, and it's hard to criticize him, though, because you get a lot of feedback. Let me just say this. First of all, this whole thing that Barack Obama divided the country. Are you serious, Bruce Pearl? He only divided the country because there were many racist white folks who were upset that the commander-in-chief of the country was a black man. That pissed them off, that enraged them, that made them want to just cuss out everybody and make them lose their mind. That's how he divided the country, because there were people who could not stand the sight of him and his black family in the White House. Let's be for real, And Bruce Pearl, you were one of those individuals talking about he divided the country. I beg to differ. There are many black people to this day that criticize Barack Obama for not being pro-black enough. There are many black folks in this country that criticize Barack Obama for not being pro-black enough. So talking about he divided the country. Bruce Pearl, you are a MAGA lover. Look at what your MAGA man Donald Trump is doing. Look at what y'all MAGA crowd, look how y'all denigrate black folks and act like y'all pushing this black fatigue narrative. This narrative that black folks are inherently more criminal and degenerate than any other group of people. And you're tired of it. You just want to move away from black people because they're so degenerate and they're so, we are so violent and degenerate. When degeneracy exists across all ethnicities. I went to grad school at a predominantly white institution called Arkansas State University in Jonesboro, Arkansas, right? I went to a HBCU for undergrad at Mississippi Valley State University, got my bachelor's degree in communication, then went to get my master's degree from communication at Arkansas State. When I was at Arkansas State, I saw white degeneracy up close and personal. I saw single white mothers like it wasn't nothing. White young men getting out of there on their children's mother, getting the fuck up out of there and not even taking care of their children. But people will have you think that's just something that black men do. That's a black man thing. I saw them doing it to their girlfriends in Arkansas like it wasn't shit, okay? I saw racism down there like it wasn't nothing. I saw all type of just drunk and drunk frat boys down there getting accused of sexual assault like it wasn't nothing. Okay? So all of that, this black degeneracy thing, this black fatigue, because we're tired of the black degenerates. Yeah. Yo people, yo MAGA crowd, Bruce Pearl, excuse me. Yo MAGA crowd, Bruce Pearl, they pushing that narrative. They're pushing that narrative. You know? So to act like Barack Obama is divisive, no. You and your crowd are the divisive ones. You and your idol Charlie Kirk. All that he was doing, talking about black folks and Palestinian kids and all that type of stuff, and talking about black women and degrading black folks in general, he was the one being divisive. You talking about Barack Obama? No, it's he divided the country because a lot of people that look like you and think like you, Bruce Pearl, were upset that a black man was the commander-in-chief. You didn't want to call a black man your president, and it made you sick. It made your skin crawl that he was the president of the United States of America. And I remember talking to a friend of mine who went to an all-white Catholic school. When Barack Obama became president, she had a white teacher who was pregnant, who was going around saying that Barack Obama was the Antichrist and Barack Obama was going to snatch her baby out of her stomach. Because, just think about that type of shit. Because Barack Obama he was the devil. He was the Antichrist. He was the wrong person to be president. There's many people who thought like that on that MAGA end, who are now on the MAGA end. Bruce Pearl, one of them individuals, right? You know, so, and Bruce Pearl, then he says, I wanted my players to think, hey, I don't want you working at a Subway. He said, I wanted my players to know I didn't want them working at a Subway. I want you owning 5 of them. Well, were you going to help them, Bruce? Because I doubt you have helped them. Because let's be for real. Only about 1% of college basketball players go to the NBA. And a lot of them don't major in degrees that can help them get prominent jobs because, Bruce, you and a lot of other coaches across America want them being eligible for basketball. So you push them into easy majors where they can get passed along instead of allowing them to major in things that can get them great jobs after they're done. A lot of y'all might put them on a coaching staff, but y'all not paying them handsomely like that. You're not. So all of this, I want them owning 5 Subways. Are you helping them, Bruce, with all the money you made off their black bodies? But let's be for real. Bruce Pearl, just like Tommy Tuberville, who is now the senior U.S. Senator from Alabama, a lot of these men, they despise young black men young black people in general, unless they're helping them elevate their own careers, right? This Bruce Pearl is the same man who threw his black assistant coach, Chuck Person, under the bus and allowed him to take the fall for a scandal that he had going on. He allowed Chuck Person to take the fall for that. Bruce Pearl then violated NCAA rules and regulations everywhere he went. This is the same, Bruce Pearl so sleazy, this is the same man who, when he was assistant coach at Iowa, right, they were trying to recruit Deion Thomas. Deion Thomas was a star basketball player out of my hometown where I'm at now, Chicago, Illinois. Deion Thomas went to Simeon, which is the alma mater of Derrick Rose, the late great Ben Wilson, Nick Anderson, Jabari Parker, Kendrick Nunn, Taylor Horton Tucker, aka THT, right? Deion Thomas went to that Simeon. He was a 1989 Mr. Basketball for the state of Illinois. He was heavily recruited. Bruce Pearl, while an assistant coach at Iowa, he was trying to get Deion Thomas to come to Iowa. Deion Thomas ended up staying home, and he went to the University of Illinois, right? Another Big Ten school. Bruce Pearl was so mad that Deion Thomas didn't pick Iowa. While he was the assistant coach, he calls Deion Thomas and entraps Deion into admitting that he received some money from Illinois. And Bruce Pearl is secretly recording the conversation and then took it to the NCAA. And that got his ass ousted out of Division I basketball for quite a while. Because nobody likes a snitch that's going to be a whistleblower when things don't go well, because all of these programs, all of the major programs were paying players under the table, including Iowa. I'm sure Iowa was doing the exact same thing. Bruce Pearl was just mad because Deion didn't pick Iowa and he picked Illinois. So he wanted to get Deion Thomas and the University of Illinois in trouble. He wanted to get Deion Thomas in trouble for not picking his school. So he tried to rat him out and entrap him with a phone call and try to get Deion Thomas to admit that Illinois paid him. See how type of sleazy shit that is because he didn't pick your school? Fuck out of here, man. But yeah, man, Bruce Pearl and Tommy Tuberville, who also coached at Auburn for about 10 years. He coached at Ole Miss. And listen, I went to undergrad in Mississippi, but the fact that the University of Mississippi's nickname is Ole Miss, Old Mississippi, and they had a goddamn rebel as the mascot tells you everything you need to know about that institution. Okay? But yeah, Tommy Tuberville was at Ole Miss, and he was living that good old boy rhetoric. And him and Bruce Pearl are one and the same. You can look at quotes that Tommy Tuberville has had about black folks and crime and all of that to understand how he really feels about the black bodies that helped him gain generational wealth. The same can be said for Bruce Pearl. Look at who he idolizes. Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk is his hero, right? Look at how he feels, what he said about Barack Obama and all of that. You can see how he really feels about the black bodies that helped him gain generational wealth. Bruce Pearl has no respect for black folks at all. If he did, he wouldn't be trying to champion Charlie Kirk at all, nor would he try to, make it seem like Charlie Kirk is some goddamn martyr, right? But yeah, man, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes into politics just like Tommy Tuberville, man. A lot of these dudes, they get into these politics, they go into politics, and you understand exactly how they feel about black folks, through policies that they push and things that they advocate for. You see they have disdain towards black folks if they're not dribbling a basketball or catching a football for them. Seriously. So, black parents, please be careful when you send your kids to school, because your kid may very well end up playing for a guy like Bruce Pearl, who thinks negatively about black folks and champions people who think negatively about black people. So good riddance to Bruce Pearl. Give a fuck about him, because he don't care about black people at all, and you can see it through the quotes that I just read off to y'all. Machiavelli Mills TV, I'm out, y'all. Peace.